Platform to amplify the voice of your business, to grant visibility for your products, to create awareness for your services. Then contact CAM1 TV, because CAM1 TV is that place where you will position your business in the faces of your target market. Contact us on telephone number 677-627386. CAM1 TV, taking your businesses to the limelight.
Good morning, dear listeners and viewers. On our top stories today, the fight against the political violence is the slogan which every statesman across the world is preaching following the assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, in the United States this past Saturday. The former president barely escaped with his life and was mildly wounded on his ear during a shootout as the 20-year-old Republican gunman by the name of Thomas Matthew Crooks was killed on the spot by the American Secret Service. The death toll amounted to one as 50-year-old Corey Comparator lost his life in the process trying to protect his wife and two daughters. Other casualties include 57-year-old David Dutch and 74-year-old James Copenhagen, who were fatally wounded during the shootout. In this edition of the news, we analyze the future of technology in Cameroon with the incorporation of artificial intelligence. These are the headlines, and the news shall be yours in the jiffy. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the news on CAM1 Radio. Of course, the frequency is 99.5 FM, and this is the People's Radio. The Minister of Post and Telecommunications, Madam Limbethe Lily Keng, says artificial intelligence is the fruit and the future of globalization. Furthermore, she says the government is working on a national strategy to incorporate artificial intelligence in working environments, a project which, according to her, will contribute to the digital transformation of networks in Cameroon. But the minister also highlighted key points which are primordial in the realization of artificial intelligence projects in Cameroon, which are stable electricity supply, upgraded internet services for fluid connectivity, and a competent personnel to run the project. She was speaking on the weekender program Actualité Hebdo on state television, where she also announced an open contest which will be launched this Wednesday in Yaoundé for the selection of creative minds in the domain of information technology. Also, Minister Limbethe Lily Keng also announced the 7th edition of the Information Technology Holiday Camp, which will take place from the 20th to the 24th of August in Edea. And the most outstanding students will be awarded a scholarship by the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications in Cameroon. We talk something else in this edition of the news, just to state that the main bridge linking the city of Bamenda with the Rendezvous neighborhood is reported to have collapsed on Saturday, leaving people helpless. Those who wanted to move to other destinations using this bridge were stranded as bikers and drivers and also commercial agents were the worst hit as traffic was experienced along the Tarikon Road leading to the hospital roundabout. Roads linking towns in Bamenda are in advanced state of dilapidation. However, a recent piece of information revealed that international donors and organizations will finance the rehabilitation of the road to take more than 30 billion francs CFA for this rehabilitation project. Wisenui Flora Senui, a final year marketing student at the Faculty of Economics and Management Sciences from the University of Bamenda, is reported to have died over the weekend. The circumstances surrounding her death are still unclear at the moment. Some sources say she was murdered around Bafoussam in the west region of the country by an unidentified individual. However, conflicting accounts suggest that she may have taken her own life following the disciplinary committee's decision to suspend her from graduating this year due to alleged examination malpractices. At the moment, investigations are ongoing to clarify the circumstances surrounding her death. The Soil Development Association, in its acronym INSOVA, has expressed a strong opposition to the Catholic Church's inculturation practices and has threatened legal actions against the church for desecrating soil tradition and culture. Inculturation, I should say, is a concept stemming from the 1994 Special Assembly for Africa of the Synod of Bishops held in Rome, which involves integrating local cultures and tradition into evangelization efforts. Farmers in Bamenda in the northwest region are infuriated over alleged scams by an organization called Sabi CAM. According to the farmers, Sabi CAM, which promised to support the production of rice or production of plantains, rather, collected a registration fees of 10,000 francs CFA from numerous farmers but failed to deliver on its promises. They say they will file complaints with the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. In the same light, the Cameroonians in Germany have staged a protest demanding justice for William Cheju, a Cameroonian national residing in Germany who was stabbed to death in the streets of Berlin, most precisely at a Jesuit-Brunnen on Thursday afternoon. The attack is reported to have taken place on a budget store, so apparently a dispute over a parking space had escalated. The victim had peeled one another. Drivers wanted to claim the space for himself. This led to an argument between the two. According to witnesses, a third party came along and stabbed the victim, who eventually succumbed to his serious wounds in the hospital. The assailant was arrested on the spot, awaiting justice to take its course. But however, it still didn't stop Cameroonians from protesting to decry or denounce what they consider or highlight as a very bad democratic process in Germany. We talk something completely different in this edition of the news and move immediately to our international page. Former President Donald Trump was rushed off stage after loud bangs were heard at the start of a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday night in the United States. Trump sustained a bullet wound on his ear but immediately fell to the ground where he sought cover and was protected by the Secret Service protection detail. However, the same couldn't be said for 50-year-old Corey Comperator, a rally goer who dove to protect his family but was killed during the attempted assassination of the former President Donald Trump. Donald David Dutch, a 57-year-old man, and a 74-year-old James Copenhagen were also grievously wounded. The recent reports say their condition is now stable. Authorities identified the gunman in Saturday's attack as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was killed by Secret Service agents at the scene after the shooting. However, the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, said on Saturday he spoke to Corey Comperator's wife and two daughters after his death. The governor described Corey as a hardworking firefighter, a girl dad, and a hero, and also had so many positive remarks about him. Now, take a listen to the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, in the following excerpt.
State Police. I'm joined today, of course, by Colonel Christopher Paris of the Pennsylvania State Police. Law enforcement will have more to share throughout the day. I'd like to make a few comments separate from the ongoing investigation. First and foremost, the assassination attempt on the former president, Donald Trump, last night was absolutely unacceptable and tragic. Lori and I are grateful that the former president is safe and, according to him and his team, is fine. It's also important to note that last night, 3 of our fellow Pennsylvanians were shot, 1 fatally and 2 in critical condition. I've just spent time speaking to the families, and I want to offer my prayers and the prayers of all 13 million Pennsylvanians for the individuals who are being treated at this time. We lost a fellow Pennsylvanian last night, Corey Comperator. I just spoke to Corey's wife and Corey's 2 daughters. Corey was a girl dad. Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community. And most especially, Corey loved his family. Corey was an avid supporter of the former president and was so excited to be there last night with him in the community. I asked Corey's wife if it would be okay for me to share that we spoke. She said yes. She also asked that I share with all of you that Corey died a hero. That Corey dove on his family to protect them last night at this rally. Corey was the very best of us. May his memory be a blessing. Last night was shocking for this community and for this Commonwealth, and I know for this country. Political disagreements can never, ever be addressed through violence. Disagreements are okay, but we need to use a peaceful political process to settle those differences. This is a moment where all leaders have a responsibility to speak and act with moral clarity. Where all leaders need to take down the temperature and rise above the hateful rhetoric that exists and search for a better, brighter future for this nation. That's the work that I try to do every day here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that's the work that falls to each and every American right now. And so I ask that you join me in prayer for the 2 Pennsylvanians who are in critical condition. That we continue to wish for a full and speedy recovery and pray for the former president. And the Comperator family remains in our thoughts and prayers. They have some very challenging times ahead of them. They will have an empty seat at the dinner table for the rest of their lives. But we need to make sure that Corey's memory is forever a blessing. And here in Pennsylvania, we will see to it that that is the case.
That was the governor of Pennsylvania, George Shapiro, who was voicing out his opinion on the death of Corey Comperator, who was shot during the rally on Saturday in Pennsylvania. In the same light, senatorial candidate Dave McCormick, who was present at the front row of the rally preparing to speak after being called several times by Donald Trump, vividly describes the scene in detail. Now take a listen to him in the following excerpt.
You know, it was one of these moments where he actually, I saw him beforehand and he was very upbeat and excited about the rally because it had such a big turnout. And then he got on the stage and I think he was thinking about that. So he said, in front of the whole audience, Dave McCormick, I want you to come up right now. So I started to walk up onto the stage. He said, no, I'll have you up in a little bit. And then the shooting started a minute or two later. And so, you know, had he not changed his mind, I think I would have been up on that stage. And, you know, it was one of these surreal moments where you have, you're watching and all of a sudden you hear this staccato of shots. And it was pretty clear somewhat quickly that it was a rifle. And the president went down behind the podium and the Secret Service was on top of him. And then all of a sudden they were up and ushering him out. And, you know, you saw this fist come out of the group with sort of defiance and reassurance and, you know, leadership and him yelling USA. And then over my shoulder, it was all of a sudden became clear that someone else had been shot, you know, a few rows behind me, and was in the prone position on the bleachers with people trying to administer first aid and stop the bleeding. And so you had these to one side of me, the president being ushered off the stage, the other trying to get medical care to this poor man who had innocent bystander who had been shot, and not knowing whether the shooting was over. You know, I thought originally there were 2 shooters because there were so many shots, and we didn't know for some time whether it was over or what was going on. And it was obviously in a crisis like this is confusing, and you need to stay calm and try to sort things out. And be in a position to help people if they need it, and that's what I tried to do. I really am. Yeah, obviously that was a huge failure. We'll find out, I guess, with time how that occurred. But I came in through a separate private entrance because I was one of the speakers, and the Secret Service was there. I was the wand went all over me to make sure I didn't have a weapon. The security seemed tight. And the response when the president, when the shots came, the Secret Service was immediately on top of him and very responsive. But the fact that a shooter could get in that kind of range, which is not that far away for a sniper at all, that's very close, seems almost inconceivable to me. And so there'll have to be, great scrutiny because, another inch and our president would have been dead. I mean, the idea that it missed him, it just hit his ear, it missed him. I mean, it's remarkable that he came out of this as he has, and we should all feel blessed, and at the same time, just heartbroken for those families. Well, I heard your earlier segment describing it. I mean, I think the polarization and the political rhetoric that has contributed, certainly, it has to contribute to an environment where Steve Scalise and the Supreme Court justices and Paul Pelosi and all these acts of violence just are so wildly unacceptable and un-American in every way. And I think that climate certainly probably contributed to what happened yesterday, although it's an environment that is somehow sanctioning violent behavior. And I think it's a responsibility for all of us we have a big conflict. We have a conflict of ideas. President Biden and the Democratic Party, in my opinion, and I think in many Republicans, are taking the country in a direction that is not good for America. And we think as Republicans that we have a vision that's much better than that. And we need to have a real debate and fight and argument, conflict about the right direction of the country. But it need not be dehumanizing. It need not lead to violence. And in fact, it can't. And the baseline of my experience is I was a platoon leader in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I had a young man from Alabama, and I had an African American man from Newark in my platoon. I had a platoon sergeant from Puerto Rico. I don't remember ever talking about religion or politics. We were just Americans in support of a common mission. And whatever differences we have, and they are profound, the differences are profound. They are small in the context of we're Americans first. And so I hope we can see a dialing back of that rhetoric. And I certainly am going to try to do my part in being a strong voice for where I think the country should go, but also one that speaks out against violent rhetoric that contributes to the horror we saw yesterday.
In regards to the shooting on Saturday, President Biden says, I quote, "While we may disagree, we are not enemies. We are neighbors. We are friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we are fellow Americans. We must stand together." President Biden condemns the attempted assassination of Trump, calling on Americans to take a step back and lower the temperature in politics. We talk sports in this edition of the news. In sports, Argentina beat Colombia to win a record 16th Copa America, but the game was marred by the kickoff being delayed by 80 minutes because of trouble outside the ground in Miami. Lautaro Martinez struck in the second half of extra time from Giovanni Lo Celso through the ball to secure the win. Captain Lionel Messi was left in tears when he had to be replaced midway through the second half after injuring himself while chasing for the ball. Bet was celebrating his country's third successive major tournament at the final whistle. Kickoff was delayed because of chaos outside the Hard Rock Stadium. Organizers said ticketless fans were trying to get into the ground, leaving some fans waiting for hours in the Miami heat for the gates to open. Fans and police officers and the security clashed with several arrests made and several supporters needed treatment from paramedics. And it should also be noted that Martinez will end up as the hero and win the Golden Boot with 5 goals. Argentina thought they had taken the lead with 15 minutes to go, but Nicolas Tagliafico's effort was ruled out for offside. In the same light, Spain won a record-breaking fourth European Championship, defeating England 2-1 following a drama-filled second half in the Euro 2024 final on Sunday in Berlin. Nico Williams, one of Spain's breakout performers at the tournament, gave La Roja the lead minutes in the second half when he smartly finished in the bottom corner from a perfectly weighted pass from the team's other emerging star, freshly turned 17-year-old Lamine Yamal. England equalized midway through the second half through a brilliantly placed left-footed effort from Cole Palmer from outside the box to restore parity at the Olympia Stadion in the German capital. But with just under 5 minutes remaining in regulation time, Spain took a late lead when Mikel Oyarzabal tapped home an inch-perfect pass from Marc Cucurella to cap off a victory and a terrific tournament from La Roja. Just to note that it is Spain's fourth Euro title, having previously won in 1964, 2008, and 2012. While for England, it is a heartbreak for a second straight European Championship, having been beaten by Italy on penalties at Euro 2020. It is with that sports note that we end this edition of the news on CAM1 Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, our host Richie with that the frequency is 99.5 FM, and this is the People's Radio. For presentation, I was a Charles Abane. See you tomorrow, same time, same place on this network.